President Lee Jae-myung and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held summit talks in Beijing, looking to mend the two nations' relations and upgrade their economic cooperation. Also in Beijing, the South Korea-China Business Forum took place on Monday for the first time in 9 years, where the two sides discovered much common ground to collaborate in the fields of economy, smart manufacturing, culture exchanges, and more. Following the dramatic capture of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro, the country's interim leader has issued a dovish message to the U.S. as the Trump administration continues to project force and the possibility of further military action. The summit between the leaders of South Korea and China has just ended in Beijing, with a focus on key cooperation, including the economy and North Korea. Let's go live to our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min, who is in the Chinese capital. Jung-min, what is the latest?
Tammy, so the summit began with the red carpet treatment for the two leaders at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing around 2 hours ago. President Lee Jae-myung, who is on a 4-day state visit to China, was given an official welcome by his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping with a 21-gun salute. The leaders sat down for talks, which will be followed by the signing of MOUs, the exchange of presents, and a state dinner. The Seoul-Beijing relationship is likely to be topping the agenda. They last met in South Korea's Gyeongju about 2 months ago on the sidelines of the APEC leaders meeting. It should be noted that today's summit comes at a time of complicated geopolitics.
Indeed, Jung-min, now their talks are believed to have covered a range of issues. What's on their agenda?
You're right, Tommy. So we are still learning about the details of the summit, but we expect a number of issues to be on the summit table. First, the leaders are expected to have focused on economic cooperation centered on supply chains, investment, and the digital economy. As I said, a number of MOUs will be signed.
The leaders will discuss ways to achieve tangible results that can substantially contribute to the lives of the people in both countries.
North Korea is also on the agenda as Seoul asks Beijing to play a constructive role to revive dialogue with Pyongyang based on the restored Seoul-Beijing relationship.
Both South Korea and China share the common goal of peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and in Northeast Asia.
Eyes are also on China potentially lifting its unofficial ban on Korean cultural content that began in 2016. As sensitive issues could also have been included, such as China's unauthorized steel structures in the West Sea or Taiwan issues. Blue House officials say it's unprecedented to have completed South Korea-China reciprocal visits at the top level in just 2 months. That's all for me at this hour. Back to you, Dami.
All right, that was our Yoon Jung-min live from Beijing. Now, staying in Beijing, ahead of his summit agenda, President Lee Jae-myung attended a bilateral business forum earlier today, where he called for boosting economic cooperation in the existing areas and beyond. Our correspondent Song Yu-jin follows this report from Beijing.
At the Diaoyutai State Guest House, where South Korea and China negotiated establishing diplomatic relations 34 years ago, President Lee Jae-myung called on the two countries to join hands and open a new chapter in economic cooperation.
오늘의 한중 협력도 산업 혁신과 안정적 공급망을 통해 서로의 강점을 잇고 각자의 시장을 넘어 새로운 기회를 함께 열어갈 수 있도록 해야 합니다.
President Lee made the remarks during the South Korea-China Business Forum on Monday, the first such event in 9 years. Addressing some 600 business leaders from both countries, Lee urged them to help, quote, set sail a ship of Seoul-Beijing cooperation, describing China as an inseparable and valuable neighbor. Emphasizing the need to keep economic ties intact regardless of political circumstances, Lee cited the historical example of Pyeongnam-do, an international port of Korea's Goryeo Kingdom that facilitated trade with China's Song Dynasty.
외교적 긴장과 갈등이 있었던 시기에도 평란도를 통한 교역과 교류는 중단되지 않았다는 사실입니다. 이러한 지속적인 교류는 동아시아의 안정과 번영, 나아가 평화 질서 유지에도 중요한 역할을 수행했습니다.
Looking ahead, the president highlighted two promising areas for future collaboration. First, sharing expertise on applying cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence to manufacturing, which could help both countries address structural challenges, including green and digital transitions and aging populations. Second, expanding cultural exchanges to deepen mutual trust, attract investment, and open new markets. The neighbors already share a close trading relationship, with China being South Korea's largest trade partner and South Korea ranking second for China, with annual trade volume totaling around $300 billion. Attention now turns to the South Korea-China summit on Monday, where discussions are expected to focus on economic cooperation and a series of memorandums of understanding will be signed. 송유진, Arirang News, Beijing.
The interim government in Venezuela is now calling for cooperation with the Trump administration, following the latter's strikes and seizure of its leader, Nicolas Maduro, this past weekend. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Oh Soo-young, has the latest.
Venezuela's interim leader has asked for a balanced and respectful relationship with the United States, as Washington warns there could be boots on the ground in the region. This came on Sunday local time as Delcy Rodriguez appeared to bow to U.S. pressure, writing on Telegram that it is her priority to move towards a balanced and respectful relationship with the United States. She invited Washington to work together for cooperation that is aimed towards shared development. This strikes a different tone from her first speech as interim leader, during which she condemned the, quote, brutal use of force by the U.S. in capturing Nicolas Maduro. As Maduro's vice president and oil minister, Rodriguez had previously defended the regime against accusations of terrorism, drug operations, and stealing the previous election. However, instead of Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, who was seen as a likely interim president candidate, the Trump administration is willing to work with Rodriguez for now, reportedly impressed by her technocratic background in the oil and energy sector. Trump has said if Rodriguez does not do what is right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. While Washington hasn't specified how it will run Venezuela, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that the U.S. would leverage its oil blockade on the country to drive political changes, including in governance, to meet the national interests of the U.S. and the interests of the Venezuelan people. Rubio, at the same time, denied that Washington needs Venezuela's oil, saying this is not about securing the oil fields. On broader questions regarding America's involvement in foreign affairs, especially with Trump's long-time pledge to reduce U.S. military presence around the world, the U.S. leader said the country is not afraid of boots on the ground. When asked Sunday about a possible military operation against Venezuela's neighbor Colombia, Trump said it sounds good.
Now, we have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
Trump also said he offered to send troops to help Mexico tackle its drug cartels, but that the Mexican president is afraid. As for the fate of the captured leader of Venezuela, a spokesperson for the Southern District Court of New York said Maduro and his wife Celia Flores are scheduled to appear before a federal judge at noon on Monday. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
On Sunday, North Korea test-fired hypersonic missiles into the East Sea, with the leader Kim Jong-un overseeing the launch. Park Jun-han has this report.
North Korea on Sunday fired hypersonic missiles toward the East Sea, with its leader Kim Jong-un personally overseeing the exercise. This was confirmed by South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff and North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said multiple missiles fired from near Pyongyang at around 7:50 a.m. Sunday were detected. The projectiles traveled approximately 900 to 950 kilometers before falling into the East Sea between Russia and Japan, with Japan's Ministry of Defense reporting 2 ballistic missiles. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command also acknowledged the launch, saying it posed no immediate threat to U.S. personal territory or allies, while reaffirming Washington's commitment to defending the homeland and regional partners. Korean Central News Agency on Monday described the event as a hypersonic missile launch training exercise aimed at evaluating the readiness of its hypersonic weapon systems and verifying operational capabilities. Kim Jong-un, who attended the launch, praised the exercise, saying that the readiness and lethality of Pyongyang's strategic offensive capabilities are an effective means of deterrence. The timing of the North's missile launches coincides with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's departure for China and follows the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro by the U.S. Experts suggest the timing was carefully calculated to reflect Pyongyang's claim that, unlike Venezuela, it possesses nuclear and missile capabilities strong enough to deter potential U.S. intervention. Sunday's missile launch marks North Korea's first ballistic missile launch since November last year. This is also the third since the start of the Lee Jae-myung administration. Park Jun-han, Arirang News.
Seeing Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's capture by the U.S. as an existential threat, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered the launch himself, as if to hint that the North will exact revenge on anybody who threatens the regime. Our Kim Bo-kyung has more.
The U.S. operation in Venezuela surprised many, but one person who could be on edge the most is North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. In the aftermath of the U.S. action, the regime immediately launched at least 2 hypersonic missiles on Sunday and strongly denounced Washington's capture of Maduro, calling it the most serious form of encroachment on sovereignty. North Korea and Venezuela have long built close ties on the anti-U.S. front since establishing diplomatic relations in 1974. Experts said that Kim was shocked by the incident, adding that the fact the regime tested hypersonic missiles itself shows he wanted to demonstrate himself as different from Maduro, and that nobody, not even Washington, could harm the regime.
The missile test had an indirect message in it that North Korea is a nuclear-armed country while Venezuela is not, and that the two are completely different in that sense.
By launching a hypersonic missile, the regime was showing that it has the ability to strike back immediately if the U.S. or any other hostile forces threaten the regime. Basically, it was to warn others not to even think about trying something against it.
Kim has witnessed cases of regime change in other countries, such as Iraq and Libya, which could have taught him that the only way to survive is through strength. Now, with the capture of Maduro, Kim's belief in boosting strength for survival would have solidified further, making it much harder to start denuclearization talks on the peninsula. Moreover, Kim may have become even more cautious when it comes to engaging in talks with Trump.
Kim will not rush into negotiations. North Korea has already experienced the failed Hanoi talks. So unless he clearly sees a strong U.S. commitment, such as real steps toward a peace system on the Korean peninsula through a peace treaty or the normalization of North Korea-U.S. relations, it will be hard for him to come forward.
With the 9th Party Congress slated to be held within this month, the expert added that Kim will likely further highlight the need to develop both nuclear forces and conventional military capabilities. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The South Korean benchmark KOSPI surged past the 4,400 mark on Monday, buoyed by strong gains in chip makers, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. Cha Yun-kyung reports.
The South Korean benchmark KOSPI soared past the 4,450 mark for the first time on Monday. The index surged sharply in early trading and closed at 4,457.52 points, while the KOSDAQ closed at 557.50, marking the highest closing levels in about 4 years. Foreign investors were the main force driving the index higher, snapping up shares worth 2.1 trillion won, or $1.45 billion US. Chip giants Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix posted notable gains among heavyweight stocks on the KOSPI. Samsung opened at $93.26 US and surged in early trading to touch an all-time high of $95.02 US before closing at $95.66 US. SK Hynix also advanced, closing at $482.13 after touching $485.10 earlier in the day. Samsung Electronics market capitalization stood above $554.4 billion, while that of SK Hynix was above $346.5 billion. The fallout from Saturday's U.S. attack on Venezuela prompted concerns over geopolitical tensions, investor preference for safe haven assets, and potential capital outflows from source markets. However, the KOSPI shrugged off such worries and secured back-to-back gains. The market is placing more weight on fundamental factors such as improving corporate earnings and a recovery in industrial conditions, rather than on geopolitical issues. In particular, expectations ahead of Samsung Electronics' fourth quarter earnings announcement and CES 2026 are producing expectations that the industry will remain on a strong footing this year. Meanwhile, the won closed at 1,443.8 per dollar in the daytime session, weakening from Friday's 1,441.8, but remaining in the 1,440 range for a second consecutive session. 차윤경, Arirang News.
In the U.S., we are counting down one day to the start of this year's trade show by the Consumer Technology Association. And South Korean companies are promising exciting innovations in consumer electronics bolstered by AI. Lee Eun-jin has a preview.
The annual trade show of all things tech kicks off the new year. In Las Vegas, CES 2026 gets underway this Tuesday, January 6th, showcasing the next generation of intelligent machines. Organizers of the Consumer Electronics Show expect more than 4,500 exhibitors, including 1,400 startups. And the show is set to showcase artificial intelligence across consumer tech, alongside a heavy focus on robotics and humanoid robots. Major Korean firms will have their run at the conference. Samsung Electronics will be setting up a standalone exhibition hall for this year's CES, with its presentation titled The First Look, intended to mark the first unveiling of the company's new products and technologies. The standalone exhibition space will cover just over 4,600 square meters at the Wynn Hotel, and its program will include exhibitions, press conferences, and forums under the theme Your AI Companion for Everyday Life. Another frontrunner in physical AI, Korean carmaker Hyundai Motor Group, is set to unveil its next-generation electric humanoid robot. The company's robotics arm, Boston Dynamics, holds a vision of commercializing AI-powered humanoid robots to position itself as a powerhouse of physical AI. The Korea Institute of Science and Technology, as it marks its 60th anniversary this year, announced on Monday that it will set up an exhibition booth at Eureka Park during this year's CES, where it plans to unveil 15 research outcomes. One of which, the Institute's AI and Robotics Research Division, will be showcasing a smart city safety management AI platform that analyzes multiple closed-circuit television, or CCTV, feeds in real time to immediately detect risks such as fires. With companies from over 150 countries registered to participate in this year's CES, enthusiasm for the tech fair remains strong from South Korea, with more than 800 Korean companies set to participate. This gives it the third largest national presence, only after the United States and China. Aside from AI and robotics, participating companies will also be displaying the latest in digital health, mobility, and even beauty and fashion. Lee Eun-jin, Arirang News.
Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. For that, we have our sports editor, Paul Nates, joining us in the studio. Hello, Paul. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Why don't we begin with football? Finally, a win for Hwang Hee-can's team, right?
Yes, Wolverhampton Wanderers picked up their first win of the season on Saturday. And South Korean forward Hwang Hee-can played a huge role in that win. A 3-0 home victory over West Ham United Hwang sent home a spot kick just after the half-hour mark to make it 2-0, coolly sending the ball down the middle. In the 4th minute, though, Hwang got an assist for John Arias's goal, peeling away down the left in the area before sending the ball to the edge of the 6-yard box. Wolves, though, they sit bottom on 6 points, 13 from safety. There's now hope, though, of avoiding the unwanted record of the fewest points set by Derby County with 11 in 2008. As for Hwang, it was his 2nd goal of the season and 1st assist in 15 Premier League matches.
You know, great to see him staying fit and injury-free, right? Now, sticking with football, finally, the AFC U23 Asian Cup in Saudi Arabia begins this week, doesn't it?
It does, yes, with South Korea facing Iran on Wednesday in their first game. Now, this is a competition of great importance, partly because the top 3 earn a place in the Olympics. Now, manager Lee Min-sung says the aim is to win the competition, a repeat of 2020. They arrived in Riyadh on Friday, having been in Qatar for training from December 22nd. After facing Iran on Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Korea time, they will head to face Lebanon on the 10th, then Uzbekistan on the 13th. Now, should Korea win Group C, they'll face 2nd in Group D, one of Iraq, Australia, Thailand and China in the quarters. If they finish 2nd, it'll be the winners of Group D. It's a strong squad with a handful of regulars for K-League 1 clubs, including Jeonbuk's Kang Sang-yoon and Gangwon's Shin Min-ha.
Fingers crossed. Now, moving on to winter sports. With Winter Olympics just around the corner, South Korea's figure skaters have secured their places, right?
Right. In the men's division, Cha Jung-man has booked his place. It'll be his 3rd straight Winter Olympics, and his place was secured after winning the men's singles title at the 80th National Championships in Seoul on Sunday. He earned a total score of 277.84, 97.5 in the short program, and 180.34 points in the free skate. Cha is only the 2nd South Korean figure skater to head to 3 Winter Games in a row. He'll be joined by 18-year-old Kim Hyun-kyung. In the ladies' division, though, Shin Ji-ah and Lee Hae-in secured their spots. Shin earned a total score of 145.46 points on Sunday, 76.04 in the technical score, and 69.42 in the artistic score in the free skate event, for an overall score of 219.89. It'll be Shin's first Olympics. As too for Lee Hae-in, who managed an overall score of 196 after something of a comeback performance from the day before.
Right. Last but not least, South Korea's ice dance candidates have also been decided, haven't they?
They have indeed, yes. The team of Im Hae-na and Kwon Ye. They are also known in the ISU as Hana Lim and Ye Kwan. But also in Seoul over the weekend, they earned a total score of 188.29. They have performed together since junior level, both born in Canada, Lim to Korean parents, while Kwon naturalized as a Korean citizen in 2024 from Canadian nationality and is of Chinese descent.
Great stuff. As always, thanks, Paul. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Yeah, see you.
Even though today marks Sohan, a seasonal term referring to a period of very cold weather, we didn't have any extreme cold today. In Seoul, the daytime high rose to 2 degrees Celsius, which is fairly typical for this time of year. In southern areas, many areas warmed to close to 10 degrees during the day. In the meantime, dry weather warnings and advisories are in place for parts of Seoul and much of the eastern parts of the country. With slightly strong winds blowing, even a small spark could easily turn into a wildfire, so please be extra careful with fire safety. Most areas will start cold tomorrow morning, with Chuncheon at -10 degrees, Daegu at -4 degrees. Daily highs will rise up to 5 degrees in Daejeon, 7 degrees in Gwangju, Daegu, and Gyeongju. Later in the week, the center and western regions will see more frequent chances of rain or snow. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.